In my last video, I talked about creating a distinctive and original narrative perspective, and we looked at some great examples of first-person narration. But what about third person? If you're writing a third-person narrative for AQA Paper 1 Question 5, how do you make your perspective distinctive enough to hit that top band level descriptor? Well, the first thing you need to understand is that third person isn't just one thing. There are different types of third person perspective, and the two main ones you might want to think about are third person limited and third person omniscient. Understanding the difference between these and choosing one deliberately is part of creating that distinctive perspective the mark scheme is looking for. So let's break down what these terms mean, look at some examples from published fiction, and work out how you can use them effectively in your own writing. Third person limited means the narrator stays close to one character's perspective. We see the world through their eyes. We are having access to their thoughts and feelings, but we can't access anyone else's inner world. The narrator uses he, she, or they, but we experience everything essentially through one character's consciousness, almost like first person, but with that slight distance of third person pronouns. So why choose third person limited over first person? You might be wondering, if third person limited is so close to first person, staying with one character's thoughts and perspectives, why not just choose the first person? Well, there are some good reasons why third person limited can actually be a stronger choice. Firstly, third person limited gives you slightly more flexibility with language. In first person, everything has to sound like it's coming from that character's mouth, their vocabulary, their way of speaking, their tone. If you're writing as a child or a teenager, that can limit your ability to showcase a sophisticated vocabulary, but with third person limited, whilst you're still in the character's head, the narrator's voice can be slightly more polished and literary than the character themselves might speak. Let's look at an example from Fahrenheit 451. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzle in his fists, with this great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. So what makes this so effective? Well, first off, look at that amazing descriptive language. The blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor. If that was written in the first person, it would not seem so good. The blood pounded in my head, and my hands were the hands of some amazing conductor. That feels a little bit overly self-conscious or dramatic, like the character's too aware of performing for an audience. And secondly, third person limited allows you to describe the character themselves more easily. In the first person, it can feel awkward when characters describe their own appearance or actions in elaborate ways, but with third person, you can naturally include these vivid physical details with the brass nozzle in his fists. That gives us a clear image without the character having to self-consciously narrate their own actions. And finally, and this is important for the exam, third person limited is less likely to fall into the trap of sounding too informal or simplistic. As we discussed with the November 2017 exam report, overly casual first person voices can limit your ability to showcase your skills. Third person limited gives you that intimate perspective whilst maintaining the space to demonstrate impressive vocabulary and sophisticated writing. So whilst both can work brilliantly, third person limited often gives you the best of both worlds, the intimacy and focus of staying with one character combined with the linguistic flexibility to really showcase your writing skills. Third person omniscient means the narrator knows everything about everyone. They can read their thoughts, they know exactly what's going to happen. The narrator can dip in and out of any character's thoughts, it can reveal information that no single character knows, and comment on the action from a broader perspective. The narrator has a godlike view of the story world. Omniscient literally means all-knowing. Let me give you an example that shows how powerful this perspective can be. This is from the ending of Lord of the Flies. Ralph wept for the end of innocence, the darkness of man's heart, and the fall through the air of the true wise friend called Piggy. The officer, surrounded by these noises, was moved and a little embarrassed. He turned away to give them time to pull themselves together and waited, allowing his eyes to rest on the trim cruiser in the distance. So, what makes this clearly omniscient? The narrator can access multiple characters' inner worlds at the same time. We know exactly what Ralph is weeping for, not just that he's weeping. We know the specific reasons, the end of innocence, the darkness of man's heart, and the fall through the air of the true wise friend called Piggy. But then in the very next sentence, we shift to the officer's perspective. We know he feels moved to embarrassment. We know he turns away to give them time to pull themselves together. We can see where his eyes rest on the trim cruiser in the distance. No single character could know all of this. We're moving between minds, seeing the scene from an all-knowing perspective. And why is this effective? The omniscient perspective creates this contrast of Ralph, who understands the horror of what's happened, the loss of innocence, the evil they've discovered in themselves, the death of his friend. But the officer just sees noisy children and feels embarrassed by their tears. He doesn't understand at all. By showing us both perspectives at the same time, Golding shows us this tragic gap between what the boys have experienced and how the adult world will dismiss it. The officer thinks they've been just playing games that have got out of hand, but we, through the omniscient narrator, know the terrible truth. And this is something that no other perspective could achieve quite so powerfully. Third-person limited locked into Ralph wouldn't show us the officer's casual dismissiveness. Third-person limited from the officer's view would miss Ralph's deep grief and understanding. First-person from either character would be even more restricted, but omniscient gives Golding, the author, the chance to show us both sides of this moment, the depth of what Ralph has learned and the shallowness of how it will be received. And in doing so, drives home one of the novel's central themes about the darkness of human nature and society's refusal to see it. This is what omniscient perspective can do at its best. It can show us multiple truths at the same time, creating powerful contrasts and ironies and revealing meanings that come from seeing the whole picture rather than just one character's limited view. So to sum up, third-person perspective isn't just one thing, it's a choice between limited and omniscient, and that choice matters. Third-person limited keeps you close to one character, and it creates that intimacy and tension, while still giving you the flexibility to showcase a sophisticated vocabulary. Third-person omniscient gives you the freedom to move between characters, reveal information they don't know, and create dramatic irony and contrast, and both can help demonstrate that distinctive and original narrative perspective that the Mark scheme is looking for at the top end, as long as you make a deliberate choice and stick with it consistently. Don't accidentally drift between the two, don't just default to he did this, then they did that, without thinking about whose perspective we're experiencing. Make your choice purposeful, maintain it throughout, let it shape and tell your entire story opening, and do that and you'll be showing the examiner that you understand narrative perspective at a sophisticated level.